In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to export out your texture maps. Alright, so in between lessons I went ahead and I painted a couple more tufts of fur just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of different shapes that you could go with. And it was using the exact same techniques, the same kind of layering and creating that variation in that. And so now what we want to do is I want to show you how to export this out and get it ready to use in game. And so the idea behind using textures like this is that you create the texture first. You're building the tufts of fur that you need for your project, and then the planes kind of come last. You put those into position and you give them their shape based on the textures that you've already created, and then you'll UV those shapes using this texture. So it's kind of, you might think it feels a little bit backwards. So let's go ahead and export this out, and I want to export this out to Photoshop so that way I can modify it to what I need. You may find that you've painted something out, you like the way that it was painted, but maybe you want it to be a little bit larger or something like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just export these out for Photoshop themselves. So let's go to File and let's say Export All Channels. And we're going to export this. I don't need a normal or anything like that. I'm going to use the PBR metal and, well, let's see. Let's just use the PBR metal rough folder for PSD group. I'm going to use the texture plane. I'm going to send this out. And let's find the right file that we want to use. I like Targa files, but I just want to make sure. There was what I'm looking for, PSD. I want to export that out properly. We'll also go ahead and browse to where we want these to export to. So I'm going to go ahead and export these PSD files out to this Photoshop files folder. And I'm going to hit select folder, and it's going to drop those in there. And so all I have to do at this point is just simply hit export, and it will export all of those channels. It says it has some warnings. Let's go ahead and open that folder. Double click on your Photoshop file, and we'll wait for Photoshop to come up. Alright, so we've exported this out, and you can see that we have our base color, we have our roughness, metallic, normal, and height, as well as emissive. There's a little bit of a problem with this, however. You can see that my texture plane, it brought in this background as my base color, and that's not something that I want for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close that, and let's re-export that as the same thing. So let's go ahead and go to File, let's export all channels, and let's just do the metal and roughness on that. And I'm kind of thinking about this. I'm wondering if maybe... no, let's just do the metal roughness. Yeah, good. So now let's go ahead and export this, but actually before we do that, I almost forgot. We need to turn off that fill layer. Okay, so that way we're just left with this transparency. So do File, Export All Channels. And let's do metal roughness, export. And we'll wait for that to export out. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. I'll bring up Photoshop and we'll do File, Open. And let me go to my Photoshop files. There we go. Should overwrite that one. And here we go. So here we have our texture plane. Looking at our other options, we have roughness, metallic. I really don't need that. I don't need normal. I don't need height or emissive. Our opacity, for some reason, didn't come with it. I'm not really sure why, but the roughness will work just fine. with that, so we don't have to really worry about that too much. And so if at any point you decide you want to enlarge one of these, or maybe do a little bit of work on it, you could do so, because at this point it's not UV'd to anything. And so let's just say that I want to go ahead and take all of this right here. I'm going to right click and just do a layer via cut, and then Control T to transform it. Now don't scream at me with because we're enlarging this. Okay, yes, that's probably going to be an issue, but it really doesn't lose all that much crispness to that. Now the problem is that we have the same thing on our roughness map here, and so yeah, we would have to match that back up there. Okay, so what I will do instead is we'll go ahead and just delete that, because a really cool thing that we have here is if I drop this down, let me go ahead and put in black on the background there, just separate that out. Something that's really cool with this is if we go to our channels, we should be able to get our alpha channel with that. Let's go ahead and control click on that layer there, and we could create a new layer. Actually, you know what, let's do this. We'll just do this very easily. Let me duplicate this layer, so hit Control D, or Control J. Sorry, getting keyboard shortcuts mixed up. I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to desaturate it. So I'm going to go to my adjustments. Let's go to hue saturation, take my saturation down on that, and hit OK. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make another adjustment to my levels, and I'll start to adjust the levels and try to get kind of a white value in that, so it kind of looks like our opacity in that. And so I'll get something that I like with that, maybe something kind of like that. I may kind of bring the mids down. Let me pull those back up. So we'll get something kind of like that. Hit OK on that, and then again, this can be our roughness or opacity, whatever you want to do. And you'll do the same thing to this one as well. So Control J, and then we'll just do an adjustment. Hue saturation, take your saturation all the way down, and then adjust your levels. Okay, usually just bringing these way up here, and then finding a good balance in there, and I think that's pretty good. So I'll bring that down below there. Okay, and there we go. And then we can just turn those off. We know that those are going to be our opacity maps for that. Okay. All right, so here we have this ready to go. We could go ahead and save this out. If you need to do any more adjustments, I would do that, and then go ahead and get your opacity map back there. Just showing you one way of doing that. So now that we have this, what do we do with it? So I'm going to go ahead and save this out. Let me turn off that background layer. Do File, and actually, you know what? Let's do this. No, that's fine. We'll go ahead and we'll leave that black background on there. Turn those off. Let's do File, Save As. And I'm going to, let me see. Let's save this as, let's save it in a new folder. We'll call it Texture Files. So that way, you can just get the final textures from here. So I'm going to save this as a Targa, and right now we're at 16-bit, so I need to make sure we go down to 18-bit, or not 18, 8-bit. Okay, so File, Save As, and Targa, and I'm going to go up to Texture Files, call this Fur, and save. And then we'll do this. We'll enable these. I'll do File, Save As, and put that in the same place. And we'll do Targa as well. And I'm going to say fur underscore opacity. Save that. There we go. And then once we have that, we will go into 3ds Max. Now inside of 3ds Max, we'll need to set up some fur planes that will take these textures. Okay, and so I'm going to take you into the next lesson where we will grab those planes and we'll start to create a few of those, putting those into position, just kind of ideal. And we'll just do a couple of examples and we will shape them out, UV them, and then apply this texture to that, and just make any subtle changes as needed to our model. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson.